Olivia Rodrigo Guts album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from Miss Olivia Rodrigo, actress, singer, songwriter, seemingly the next big thing in pop music. This is her second album. Her first album, Sour, came out a few years ago now, and this thing blew up overnight. Like, I had no idea that this album was even coming out at the time. I kind of scrambled to catch up with it, but I'm glad that I did because I gave it a very positive review. I think I gave it a strong 7. But the thing is, good pop music is nothing short of good pop music, and this to me was some really overly decent pop music. I mean, I still think Driver's License is an unbelievable ballad, and Good For You made my top 10 singles of the year. Now, this is easily one of the year's most highly anticipated records, and I've been anticipating it quite a bit as well. Leading up to this, she has dropped a few singles. Clearly, she has grown, and you know what? That just seems to be a running theme for the album, because I think it's really good. This album starts off with All American Bitch, and yeah, I freaking love this as an intro. This is a road that I didn't think Olivia would go down, but yet here we are. There are nods to everything from Baroque pop on the verses to straight up American pop punk during the chorus. It's got energy, it's got an explosive nature, and Olivia absolutely owns this track. Like, this on paper could have been so bad, but she absolutely owns it. It is a fantastic intro. Then we have Bad Idea, right? And honestly, has Sleeping With Your Ex ever sounded this good? We've got some playful synths, we've got some serious sass on display lyrically, and this hook, my goodness. I mean, yeah, is it a little simple and straightforward? You can argue that, but I would argue right back that it's really enjoyable. It's quirky, there's some seriously funny lines too. Not only does this work, it's a brilliant single and one of my favorite tracks here. Vampire is really good as well. There's been a lot of hype up to this track. It's a big ballad. And while personally I still would rather listen to Driver's License, I can't argue this track is gigantic. Let's just, rip the Band-Aid right off. This is one of the most vulnerable ballads I've heard in a really long time. The vocals here that we get are absolutely brilliant, but it's her vocals and her lyrics that really steal the show here. This is indeed a ballad, but it is a pissed off, just really cutting, raw one. And it's kind of progressive. It has a few different movements, and they all really work very nicely. And the final minute is just explosive and larger than life. It is really good. Now, much like her debut album, Sour, you get a lot of different flavors of pop on this album. On Lacy, we get nods to Baroque pop once again. This is much more elegant, sweet on the ears, very tender. I just love her whispery, quiet vocals on this track. And it's a track of great maturation, honestly. All throughout this album, I would say, this is very much a coming-of-age album. And I think as the year goes on, it's going to be more and more appreciated for just that. It's really good. And I do really love Ballad of a Homeschooled Girl as well. It's got that crunchy alt-pop feeling like Brutal did on Sour. It's noisy, and for this album, it's pretty chaotic. It's got this gnarly riff, and I just love how snarky Olivia is in her performance. It's a great deep cut. Now, this is easily one of the best pop records I've heard all year, and probably one of the best pop records that you're going to hear for the rest of the year as well. There are a few missteps. I feel bad saying it, but Making the Bed is one of them. I don't want to say this track isn't sincere, because it really, really is. The sentiment behind this track is absolutely there, and it does have that larger-than-life quality to it. But I just don't really like the verses on this track. Her vocals don't pop as much as they wanted them to. It gets there in the end. The finale's pretty epic, but I just wish it was tweaked a little along the way. Love is Embarrassing, on the other hand, I hate to say it, but this track has lessened on me. I mean, it's a rigid, sort of weirdly post-punk track. I do really like the heady, upbeat instrumental, and there has not been a truer sentiment on this album about love than on this track. I just don't feel like, especially during the verses, that Olivia feels as comfortable on this instrumental. I wish she did, though, because this track lyrically has so much potential. Like, at least on tracks like those two, I can understand, if you do enjoy them. But Teenage Dream as a finale, I sadly think it's the worst track here. Of all the ballads on this album, this packs the least punch, and lyrically it is still beautiful. But it also is jam-packed with some of the more awkward verses on this album. This has been an album of Olivia Rodrigo really branching out and making her own niche in pop, and that makes my heart really tingle. Then I hear a track like this, and it just sounds like a very below-average Billie Eilish track. But I digress. This album is very, very good and easily one of the best pop records you'll hear this year. I do really love Logical. This is one of the most true to form ballads here. It's Olivia and her piano, and that's it. And it can go a lot of different ways, but here it turns out truly stunning. Her vocals are incredible. Her lyrics are absolutely just completely some of the most raw and sincere on this entire album. I mean, vocally and lyrically, she's made huge leaps. And I really did not Get Him Back at all the first few times I sat through this album. I actually thought it was one of the worst tracks here, but it's come around to me. It's a lot of fun. It's a quirky, sassy track about getting the bad boy back, and if you look into the lyrics here, he kind of sounds like a red flag. There's some tongue-in-cheek humor. There's a gigantic hook. It's very fun. And The Grudge is one of the most raw and introspective tracks here. Like, lyrically, this is freaking deep. It's a soft track, but her performance is anything but. It's very direct. It's very intense. I think as far as a ballad goes, this track hit me the hardest. It's epic. It's larger than life. Olivia sounds like a goddamn megastar. And Pretty Isn't Pretty is a really personal, very sleek, sort of 80s tinged tune. I mean, I hear that, and don't tease me like that, Olivia. But seriously, it takes a turn for a much more serious topic, diving very into, body image, self-image. And it's handled absolutely incredibly. It's one of the most memorable tracks here. So yes, there are some missteps on this album. There are a couple of tracks where I thought, it got there in the end, but it needed some tweaking along the way. And I still think that Teenage Dream is the worst track here. But what's not bad at all is this album. I actually think she's made serious artistic leaps and bounds since her Sour album, which I already thought was pretty damn good. This time, on the other hand, she's trying out more things. She's writing bigger hooks. She seems a lot more comfortable. Her vocals are better and her lyrics are better. Yeah, this album is better. It's actually one of the best pop albums you're going to hear all year. I'm feeling a decent 8 on this album, but let me know what you all think down below. If you liked the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.